second half for Kobe Buffkin.
Everybody, welcome in to the Michigan Basketball Postgame Live. That's how one of the hoops sounded on FSN tonight. It is a final 75-70. Purdue comes into Ann Arbor and gets the win over Michigan. That was for Kobe Buffkin, 2 of his 16. Not enough. And we're ready to talk about this one with you. We're here after every Michigan basketball game talking about the Wolverines and what transpired out on the floor, where they have been, where they were at, and where they are going. We always take your feedback. You want to get a call in, you can do that, punch up on Spaces. That's what it's all about. You know, heading into this one, when you saw that Jet Howard was not going to be available because of the ankle injury he suffered on Sunday, you knew this was going to be a tall task, and it was. But, you know, Michigan, they, I would say for, 15, 16 minutes, they were right in there hanging out and hanging in and looking Purdue in the eye. And it was a pretty entertaining game. For the first 16 minutes, it was very entertaining because you're like, all right, Michigan, you know, they're standing toe-to-toe with them. But, you know, big Zach Edey, a guy that we're, you know, a little familiar with if you watch Big Ten basketball. First time maybe you're seeing him this year, and he's a little bit better than he was last year, more mobile. You know, he's 7'4", and he can swing that big right hook up. He can also swing a big left hook up, and he can put that big drop step on you. And he pretty much is an air traffic controller out there. If you're trying to drive on him, whatever that wingspan is, you see him, but he doesn't just block shots. He annihilates them into the basket. So, yeah, he's the real deal. And, you know, looking at the notes in this game that I jotted down while it was going on that I have up on the screen, you know, Michigan did come to play and they did hang in there, but Zach Edey was a monster. Now, Michigan got a little sloppy. There are some things that we could all, you know, you don't need to be a gigantic expert. Michigan was going to have to shoot well. They're going to have to get guys coming off the bench that have not contributed, and they were going to have to really pitch in for Michigan. And Michigan just got a little sloppy late. You know, they had an opportunity. They went a little bit cold shooting, and then they couldn't convert a 3-on-1 when they had it. Isaiah Barnes, who was one of those guys that was coming in, you're thinking, all right, you know, this is a real chance. When you don't have Jet, you're going to put some other guys in there, and you know, Barnes wasn't up to the task. So, you know, they're down 13. You think, okay, this one's over, but they closed at a 7-0 run, and they were only down 6 at the half. And the big man battle was pretty close. Edey had 15, Hunter Dickinson with 14. And you're thinking, all right, you know, a half dozen is something. It's doable. And Purdue came out kind of strong to start the second half, and they were up 10 with 10 to go. But, you know, Michigan got it down to 5 with 8 left. And then late, they had some chances in there, but, you know, but then late, you know, made a few plays, down 4 late. And with 5.5 seconds, you know, Joey Baker bakes in a 3. And, you know, they put Purdue on the line for the front end of a 1-and-1. You got to make that if you're Purdue. If not, you know, Michigan with a real chance then to get in a position to tie it. But that didn't happen. And so they come up short. You know, when I look at this one overall, and I just look at Michigan as a whole, it stood out this year when Hunter Dickinson and Jet Howard, when one of those guys had to go to the bench, you were really going to rely on the other one, whoever it was. And then with no Jet, and when Hunter Dickinson had to go to the bench, it was like, wow, man, where are they going to get the scoring from? And Kobe Buffkin has stepped up, and, you know, he's a nice number 2 or number 3 when Jet's in there. They got, you know, those are 3 nice offensive players. But after those 3, when you're talking about getting consistent offense, Terrence Williams II, no, not consistent offense. Doug McDaniel, the freshman point guard, at times, you know, he hit 2 pretty acrobatic. You might want to even call them wild shots. I mean, leaning, throwing it up. He's not the biggest guy, but just acrobatic moves and putting him up there, but not a consistent scorer. Just the three guys we're talking about, and then you got Joey Buckets in there in the starting lineup. And the final line doesn't look all that bad for Joey Baker with, getting into double figures with 11 points, but 3 of 8 from downtown. He got that last one in there, but you look at the bench, Isaiah Barnes had a chance. Chase Howard in there had one nice drive. Will Cheddar's the one. A lot of people, myself included, were looking for more minutes from Will Cheddar, more shots from Will Cheddar, and he hustles. If that's one thing, like moving forward, you'd say, hey, what do you want to see? I would say I'd like to see a little bit more Will Cheddar, but is that going to, do I think that would have turned the game tonight? I don't. And Terrence Reed was in foul trouble in this one. And you knew Michigan was going to have to really light it up from downtown if they were going to pull the upset in this one. They end up going 9 of 25 from downtown. They shoot 44% on the game. Not all that bad, but you just they need more scoring. They had to shoot better, and where they're going to get that from. And even when Jet comes back, it's one of those things where the team still, you're talking about being able to score, and then you're talking about being able to win games that are close, and they haven't been able to do that. You can go back to Sunday and say, hey, they were able to close out Minnesota. That would be a fair point. It's also the worst team in the Big Ten. So even being in a tight game that it was Minnesota, you could say, yeah, okay, they need to be in some tight ball games and win some against some teams that you're thinking about. One of the 9 or 10 right now in the Big Ten that are, at least at this point, being looked at as tournament teams. That's right, 10 teams. If you look, I know it's early. It's not even February yet, and we're still, we're talking about nets and RPIs and anything else, quad victories and Jerry Palm and Joey Brackets and all of that. They get 10 teams in the Big Ten. Some of those gurus making it in the NCAA tournament, Michigan on the outside looking in. So I'll see if they can get some wins coming up. We'll look at that schedule coming up in a moment. Running down the numbers in this one. Looking at it, Hunter Dickinson, he was pretty good. Going up against Zach Edey, entertaining, 21-7 for the big man. Hunter Dickinson, Kobe Buffkin ended up having 16 points in this game, 4 boards. And then we mentioned Joey Buckets, Joey Baker chipping in with 11. Doug McDaniel had 9. TW2 with 4 points. Not much from the bench here from Michigan. Chetter with 3. Barnes had a deuce. Reed with 2 points. And Jace had that drive where he ended up getting 2 points. But that was it for Michigan in the scoring department as they end up going down to Purdue tonight. And just looking at some of the numbers, a 5-point game would have been interesting. It can be very often if you're somebody that is betting on these games. Purdue was a 4.5-point favorite at tip-off, and they end up winning it by 5. But that was, if you were someone, it was interesting anyways. There at the end with Michigan being down with 3 with 5.5 to go. But very interesting if you're holding a ticket of Michigan plus 4.5, or the other way around, however it was, and it ends up being Purdue winning that one and covering the 4.5. Michigan falls to 11-9 on the year now, 5-4 in the Big Ten. Purdue, the number 1 team in the country, at least ranked number 1 team in the country, 20-1. 9-1. They haven't lost a road Big Ten game yet. Remember, they lost to Rutgers in the conference. That was at Mackey. The Ken Palm numbers heading into this one. Michigan, a big 60. Purdue, a 5 to their side. Let's look at that upcoming schedule And that is brought to you by the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball, which you can hear at 1 o'clock weekdays on this feed that you are listening to or watching right now. So that means tomorrow at 1 o'clock we'll be live. And that upcoming schedule is Michigan being back in action coming up, a midday tip out in Happy Valley against Penn State. I mentioned those bracketologists. I forgot which one I was looking at today, but they had Penn State as the last team in if Selection Sunday was today. It's not. It's a long ways away. But, Penn State, the last team in. After the Nittany Lions on Sunday, a week from today, Michigan will be in Evanston taking on Northwestern, and then really playing it out a week from this Sunday, a week from this Sunday. It'll be February the 5th. It'll be Michigan returning home to play Ohio State. Michigan needs to pick up some wins. You look at that schedule and you say, are they in the tournament? Can they make the tournament? The answer is yes. How about get on a little winning streak? How about beat Penn State, beat Northwestern, and then protect your home floor and beat Ohio State? Things would change, let's say drastically, but things would be looking a lot different if they win these next 3 games. They need to get jet back. They need to play like their tournament life is at stake, because it is. Certainly can't, lose 2 of those 3, or obviously all 3. Go out there and start stacking some wins. And that's how you're going to get some momentum heading into February and try to make the NCAAs, which is the goal for this team. Remember last year, they did beat Purdue last year by 24. But last year, for the majority of the season, it had a similar narrative, like, man, this team just doesn't look good. This team's not going to win anything. This team doesn't have this. This team doesn't have that. And then, it wasn't like you were sitting here even in mid-February talking about, oh, man, watch out for this team. It was like, maybe, okay, maybe, possibly. And it wasn't until they got a late season win at Ohio State, which you really felt maybe potentially good about Michigan getting in. And then there they were, and they ended up winning, as we know now, 2 games in the tourney, Colorado State and Tennessee, and turned last year, which would look like was going to be a disappointment, into a positive. So that's however you want to look at it. Still, in some ways, a lot of basketball to play. And it's the one thing about college basketball. You can get hot late and you can turn around the majority of the season, and you can still, it's like you always have an out. There's always something. And even if you got to the end, obviously you can go and play in the conference tournament and still, make a run there and get into the tourney. So there's always another chance. But you don't want to be counting on the Big Ten tournament having to get to Sunday or something like that, or win it. Obviously, you don't want to do that. But that's it. That's how it looked tonight down at the Crisler Center. The crowd was sounded pretty good watching it on TV. Michigan will they'll be taking their game to State College on Sunday in a midday tip. We'll be on after that game talking about how the Wolverines fare against the Nittany Lions on this very feed. Thanks for watching, and everybody have a great night. 75-70, that was the final. That's going to do it here from the Broadcast Center. Thanks for watching and listening here.